Okay, so welcome back. So last time we were just talking through the basics of how a guitar is made, all the different parts. What I didn't mention too much was the neck. So you'll notice as you look at different guitars in your local shop or online that they do vary in what's called fret radius. So this one's 9.5 inch, and you typically find that on a Fender type guitar. So a single radius, 9.5 inch, or maybe you look at a Gibson type and they might be a 12 inch. So if you think about basic geometry, a larger radius would have a flatter curvature. Now that might be down to personal preference, whether you prefer 9.5 or 12. Or you might find others, such as, for example, Ibanez, that have an even flatter radius, so maybe up to 16 inch. And the idea there is that perhaps in some hands it makes life easier for soloing, and some have the opinion that a 9.5 is somewhere in between for soloing and playing chords. And the early Fenders maybe were even 7.5 inch, so again that was where it felt comfortable, more of a curve on your finger for playing chords. But it's really important to try that out because it does depend on the size of your hands as much as anything. Not only the radius, but also the shape of the back of the guitar, the profile, which could be what they might call a modern C or D. And if you think about, again, those letters, it gives you a heads up on what the shape might be. A D typically is slightly deeper than a C profile, although it does depend on the brand. And if you've got quite longish fingers like me, then you might find that a slightly deeper neck is more comfortable than one that's rather thin and relatively flat. But that's very important when you're starting, to have a guitar that really feels comfortable. And you might think about the body shape. This is what you call a T-style shape because it's based on the original Fender Telecaster. Others would be maybe an S shape, so that it has larger horns, so-called here. Some really long, some brands, particularly some of the basses have particularly long horns. Whether that affects the tone is debatable, but it's certainly a stylistic issue perhaps. Some guitars have a profile right here. This is called a belly curve, so for the larger belly it makes it more comfortable. Some are profiled here, which is quite nice for the forearm. And some have a cutaway here, so if you're reaching the higher frets then it's more comfortable to have that feature, but it's not vital. And some guitarists still swear by the original flat paddle shape of the Telecaster. Some of the greatest professional guitarists still stick with that original Telecaster type shape. People like Robben Ford and others still play that style of guitar. So it's very much down to preference. But what I would just say in conclusion with this follow-up conversation is, when you're starting, really get a guitar that's comfortable. Don't go for the very cheapest. Look at things like the fret edges. Are they well smoothed off? Are they shaped? Is the size of the neck just right for your fingers? And maybe start off with lighter strings. So I mentioned in the previous video 10s and 8s. Well, that's the gauge of the thinnest string. And if you buy them as a set of 6, they tend to be matched, so that they gradually increase in weight as you go across from top E to bottom E. So it's called an 8 or a 10 based on the thinnest and lightest string. You can mix and match, but as a starter it's probably good to get a set of 10s and get used to that. Or if you find that they cut into your finger in the shop, then maybe ask if you can have it supplied with a set of 8s. It'll just be a little easier as you're starting. And some advanced guitarists, well, they either stick to those or even go back to them. And people like Billy Gibbons used to use very light strings. Frank Zappa was another. B.B. King said, why try too hard? why not use lighter strings? And he was persuaded to do that. So don't feel that because you're a beginner you have to have the heaviest, thickest string. Otherwise, if it's not painful, you're not trying hard enough. Make life easy, and spend a lot of time trying out different guitars, and go to maybe the max of your budget in starting off. Otherwise, you could be put off for life. So to me, there's no such thing as a good beginner guitar, as in cheap. In case you might give it up, you're much less likely to give up if you start off with a good quality guitar, one that's affordable, but certainly not the basic models. So give that a try. Let me know what you think, maybe in the comments. See you again.